Hello to all of you who love the powerful and widely used Python programming language. Thank you for being with me in this video. In the third chapter of Python programming tutorial, I want to talk about functions and modules. Modules and functions are very powerful tools in Python. This chapter is one of the most important chapters. I request you to pay close attention to the contents of this chapter and have a lot of practice in discussing models and functions so that you can use their benefits later. We already had a short talk about modules in the first chapter. We created this overview. From the first chapter, we used the names of functions and we talked a little about modules and we talked about standard library. In programming, to be able to make a stable system, you need to be able to reuse the code. Code management becomes more difficult over time, and the need to use pre-made functions and modules is felt more. The name of this function reminds us of functions in mathematics. Functions in mathematics receive input and have output. In Python programming, sometimes there are these inputs and outputs, and sometimes there is no need for them. That is, functions in Python are more general than functions in mathematics. In this first chapter of talking about functions, we will learn about functions and how to create them, and we will also learn how to create a module by putting these functions together. To begin with, we will get acquainted with the appearance and structure of these functions. First, we have the keyword def, and then there is the name of the function, and then we put two parentheses inside of which an arbitrary argument is placed. This argument can be or not. In front of these parentheses, we have the sign a column. And then in the next line, we have an indentation. You know that these indentations are very important in Python. The very important part, which is of course optional, but at the same time, I suggest you to do it. I suggest you to consider this segment actually. It is a section to put a documentation string. Next, we write the codes. This code can be a one line or multiple lines. Finally, this function can return something here at the end. Return is also a keyword. This last value is also arbitrary. As I said before, functions may have output and they may not have any output. This is the general structure of a function. All functions of any complexity in Python have a structure similar to this. There are two keywords in defining functions, def and return. Regarding string documentation, it is better to do this so that you and other programmers can briefly understand the effect of this function in future references. As I said before, the indentation from the second line in the function definition is characteristic of the function definition and must be there. The next point is the triple quotes in the documentation string. These are the triple quotes. Actually, you can see them. What is placed inside this sign is called documentation string. This is a way to leave a comment. Another way is to use the square sign. Another important point is that we used to call some things functions and others methods, and you could see that they were almost the same. If you define these functions inside a class, it is called a method. We will discuss more about this when we reach the class chapter. The type of input and output arguments can be anything. Python allows you to use any object as input and have it as output. This is another difference between Python and other programming languages. But from version 3 onwards, you can specify the expected type for both input and output arguments. But even specifying this does not make Python go to type checking mode. Python never checks these types. We will talk about the reason for this specification later. You don't define this for Python, you define it for yourself. This def is short for define. For example, in the previous chapter, we had a program to find the vowels inside a word. Let's write this code in the form of a function so that we can use its effect many times and do not need to write or copy and paste all the lines of code. See the program we wrote with sets here. As always, we enter the console first. We create the function. In the defining functions, their names are very important. It is better that this name reflects a summary of the effects of these functions. For example, we choose the function name search for vowels. Let's do it together. At first, we have the keyword def. You can see the color change because def is a keyword. Okay, a space. We want to choose search for vowels as the name of our function here. We do not need an entry at the moment. Copy and paste the code in the next line. In this way, we have written the function we wanted. Let's see. Okay, as I said before, the colon sign is very important. You should go to next line and you can see that the indentation is applied by the anaconda or spider or even the Python itself. Now you can paste. Actually, you have to apply the indentation for the whole lines. Okay. Do not forget to apply to indentation for the print command. Okay, you can see that it is written. Okay. Now we can use this function. We call the function and see that it runs without problems. Let's call it search for vowels. You can see that the phrase enter phrase is printed. We want to enter, for example, hello guys. You can see that the problem there is no problem. The program runs and the vowels are printed here. So we tried it here and it is better to transfer it to a file. We save this file as vowel search. Let's do it. Okay, we can, for example, close this too. No. Okay, let's press the F5. You can see that the program runs, but there is no visible effect here because Okay, let's save it at first. Save it as, for example, I said vowel search, for example. Let's do it here. Okay, now I have 5. Let's do it wrong. Okay, and now the program runs, but we need to at these executions we couldn't see any visible effect because there is no visible effect here. There is just a function, and we have to call this function to see that visible effect. So let's call it, and we can see the printed phrase, enter phrase. Let's type hello, this is the popular Python. Okay, and you can see that the program was executed correctly, and the vowels are printed here. After the execution, we see that the result is not visible as we saw, because the call has not been made yet. If we call the search for vowels function, we will see the program running as we saw. Comparing the structure of this function with the structure we explained with this structure, actually, you can see that there are 2 differences. One is that the last part related to return an optional value is missing, and the other is the important part of the documentation string. If the first one is not there, it is not a problem, actually. But I suggest that you add the second one to the function. Let's do it. Let's have, okay, we can do it function for showing vowels inside inside a word which is entered by user, and you can place the triple quotation here. Let's do it like that. Okay. In Python, you can save strings in 3 ways: a single quotation, double quotation, and a triple quotation, which can be written with single quotation mark or double quotation mark. Actually, we here write this sign by single quotation mark. There are 2 single quotation mark together. It is used for triple quotation in docstrings. These docstrings can be continued up to several lines. As you can see here, we have a docstring in 2 lines. This law does not apply to single quotations and double quotations. There are a series of conventions in Python. For example, the important thing about strings is that you should use strings in a non-contradictory way. That is, for example, save all strings with single quotes or all with double quotes. And the use of single quotes is more common among Python programmers. These are suggestions actually for making your code more readable. You can Google pep Python to access more suggestions. If you Google the pep Python, you will reach to such a site, and you can browse here, and you can see lots of suggestions like this. You can see them. Okay, for example, another one of these suggestions is that if you want your function names to be more standard in cases where these names are multiple words, separate the words with underscores. Let's do it in our search for vowels. Okay, let's restart our kernel in order to have the cleaner area. Okay, of course these are a series of suggestions and are not mandatory for them. Let's change this function in such a way that we can give the desired word or phrase whose vowels are to be determined as input to the function. Adding an input argument is very convenient. Just put this argument in the first parenthesis. Any name you choose as input in the function definition will become a variable in the code flow of your function. For example, here we can comment the W definition line for now and put this W inside the first parenthesis instead. In this way, the change we wanted is applied. You can try with different examples. Let's do it together. We can comment this line, and instead of that, we can make this W as input. Actually, we can run this program. We can call our function here. You can see that there is an error because now our function has an input and we cannot call it without any input. So next time we call it again, but this time with an input. We should enter our desired word or phrase here. For example, let's do it. Hello, how are you? Okay, we got another error because our phrase should be in the format of strings. So we do it again and put our phrase into a quotation. Okay, and we can see that after pressing enter, the program was executed correctly. Now, if we write a word here instead of W, we receive an error here because this word works like a variable in this function, and this W also should refer to a predefined variable, and because this is not defined here, we got an error. We can change this too in order to debug this problem. We can run it again. We can call our function again, and we can do it with another word or phrase. For example, student. You can see that the program are executed and the vowels are printed here without any problems. Now that we have an input argument in the function definition, if we call the function without any arguments, we will get an error, which we saw it. Let's take a simple example. We want this function to return a single value after execution. For example, we want to return true or false, depending on whether the input word has vowels or not. Python has a built-in function called bool, which stands for boolean. Let's type it here. Bool. You can see the color change because this word is predefined in Python and is one of the Python's keywords actually. You already know about Boolean variables. This bool is a function that you give an input to, and this function evaluates this input to true or false. In most programming languages, you know that 0 is assigned to false and 1 is assigned to true. Python is discussed beyond these. That is, in Python, this bool function works with any value. It works not only with any value, but with any object inside Python. That is, every object inside Python has a real value with it. And for this reason, that object can be either true or false. For example, the value, 0. Let's apply the bool function on the integer value 0 on the integer format of number 0. You can see that this is false. Now if we apply the bool function on the float format of 0, we can see that this is also false. Let's apply it on, for example, an empty string. We can see that, okay, because we consider a space between these two quotation marks, the bool function valued true to them, to this phrase. Let's try it on a really empty string, and you can see that the value is considered false by bool function. Let's apply this function on, for example, an empty list. You can see this is false. Let's apply it on an empty tuple. You can see that this is false. An empty, for example, dictionary set. Okay, you can see that these are false. Let's apply it to the keyword none. You can see the color change because none is one of the Python's keyword. You can see that these values considered false by the bool built-in function in Python. Okay, except these, every other object inside Python is true. You can try different examples yourself. Actually, no matter how many numbers are available after the point in float numbers, if their value is 0, their value in Python is considered false by the bool function. You can see it here. For example, this is false too. But for example, if you consider this one, you can see that this is true because of this number 1. Now we want to use this bool in the search for vowels function. If there are vowels in the input word, these letters are added to the found set. Actually, these are vowels. Otherwise, nothing will be added to found. So if found is empty, the function should return false, and otherwise it should return true. So all we have to do is remove the for loop and write return bool found instead of it. We can remove the for loop and write return applying bool on our found list. Okay, we can press F5. We can call our function search for vowels. We should consider an input, for example, is there any vowels? Okay, and you can say that the bool function works correctly. We run the file and call the function. So you can see that we were able to apply this change very easily. Let's update our docstring here. A function for showing vowels inside a word which is entered by a user. A function for showing if an input word has vowels or not. Okay. One tip, there is no need to put the expression in front of return inside the parentheses, but you know that in the case of print we must put the parentheses. Because print is a function, because return is not a function call, there is no need for parentheses in front of it. Of course, if you put the expression in front of return in parentheses, there will be no problem. But it is not mandatory to have these parentheses. Most Python programmers do not put these parentheses. Functions are designed in such a way that they can return a single value, but sometimes the situation requires that we return several values in the function. In these cases, we must use data structures. That is, we must package the output values into a data structure and then return the data structure. Because that data structure itself will be an object, but inside this object there are various objects and data. It is better to keep updating the docstring while updating the function definition, and we did it. For example, in this program, if we want to return several values, for example, we can ask the function to return the vowels in the input word to us. Return vowels. Okay, vowels themselves. We can use the command return found and remove the bool function, and we can update the docstring here, a function for showing the vowels inside an input word. Okay, we can press F5. We can call our function, and okay, we can do it with this same input phrase. We can press enter, and we can see that the vowels are returned in a data structure which is a set actually. Okay, thank you for being with me in this video. Follow me to become a strong Python developer step by step. Have a nice day.